Hello, my name is David Mahalik. I'm an engineer here at Fort Defiance Industries. Today we're going to talk about running performance tests on the P2131 sterilizer. There's two performance tests you can run on this sterilizer, a Bowie dip test and a vacuum leak test. First, we're going to talk about running the Bowie dip test. To run the Bowie dip test, what your intention is to see if this sterilizer is effective at removing air. So typically you're going to run this at the start of every day. You turn on the unit, you run the warm-up immediate use cycle to warm up the unit, and then you're going to run this first performance test, the Bowie dip test. So to run this test, you have to put an indicator that is telling you whether you're removing air effectively, one of which is the 3M Comply pack. So you're going to insert it into the chamber before you start the cycle. Just like always, you're going to place it in the bottom, on the bottom shelf. The other option is to use the Dana Products SneraScan Process Challenge device and the special Bowie dip test strip. The test strip has a little arrow on it to tell you which way to insert it into the Process Challenge device. So we're going to run the cycle with this. So insert it the correct way with the arrow, tighten the cap, and then you're going to put it in the bottom of the chamber near the drain. So we're going to close the door, tighten it, get it ready for the cycle. Now for the two performance tests, we're going to go over here to the PLC, and there's a button that says test. So we're going to press test. And again, there's our two options, the Bowie dip test and the vacuum leak test. So for the Bowie dip test, then press the Bowie dip test. And again, you get your 3 warnings on things you need to check before you run the sterilizer. So check the water level, close the chamber vent valves in the back, and make sure the door is closed and tightened. So we're about to start it, and we're just going to hit the highlights of the cycle. If you want the full in-depth explanation of what happens throughout the cycle, I want to refer you back to a video that we previously did called running a sterilization cycle. So here we go. We're going to press start. Again, we are highlighting the key differences on the Bowie dip performance test from other normal sterilization cycles. You'll see we just started stabilizing on the Bowie dip test, and you'll notice the temperature is a little higher. Instead of seeking 273 degrees Fahrenheit, we are actually seeking 274 degrees Fahrenheit for the Bowie dip test. So we're stabilizing just a little higher than normal, but again, it's the same stabilization you would see in a normal sterilization cycle. So after we settle out here in a little bit, you'll also notice that the timer for the exposure is going to start at 3 minutes 30 seconds, different than say a 4-minute or 10-minute exposure you'd see in a normal sterilization cycle. Alright, so we should be approaching the end of stabilization here in a second, and there you see we just reached the 3-minute 30-second exposure, and that's a countdown timer. It'll just carry that to the very end of it, and here in a second we'll take a break and pick back up and watch the end of the cycle and see what's different. Alright, here we are towards the end of the Bowie dip performance test. Just a few things to note. Again, the abort button is always available. It also says Bowie dip, just to indicate that you're in that. As we approach the end of exposure, we're going to go straight into a vent. There's no dry time with the Bowie dip test. So you can watch it venting there. Again, you can still press abort at any moment. Say you saw a steam leak, you did something wrong. There's always the option to press abort on the PLC, and it'll pull you out of the cycle and vent. So it's venting, it's pulling out all the steam. You can watch the pressure dropping, the temperature dropping, and it tells you that it's venting. So we're going to come back to 0 psi. And coming to the log screen, you see that we got the green light saying that the system was normal. And so looking at the log screen, you can tell that we ran a Bowie-Dick test cycle. The system was normal, no alarms were detected. You can see the total cycle time was about 15 minutes. The exposure time was 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Again, it'll give you the min and max temperatures seen during that exposure, and also the min and max pressures seen during that. So now that it's vented, we can open the chamber and you can see what happened to your indicator for air removal. And so be careful, because for this test there was no dry time. So we evacuated the chamber, but there's still a little bit of steam hanging out in the chamber. So for these cycles, you just want to be careful when you open the door. Some steam is going to roll out the top. So don't put your hands above here. Keep them down here on the door. So we're going to twist the door open. We're going to lift throw arm open. You can see the steam roll out. And then you can pull out your process challenge device and pull out the Bowie-Dick test strip and see if you ran a successful Bowie-Dick. That's all for the Bowie-Dick performance test cycle. Next, we're going to talk about the vacuum leak performance test. Thanks. All right, so the second of the performance tests on the P2131 sterilizer is the vacuum leak test. Some reasons to run the vacuum leak test. The first time you set up the sterilizer in a new location, you're going to run a vacuum leak test just to make sure everything's tight, all the hoses connected correctly, nothing jarred or got damaged in transport that would cause a leak. Because this is a pre-vac sterilizer, it's very important that it effectively pulls the vacuum and doesn't allow air in during a cycle. Another reason might be perform some intrusive maintenance. So say you replace a valve, you replace a hose, anything you do to break into the plumbing of the sterilizer, you're going to want to run a vacuum leak test afterwards just to make sure everything's sealed up correctly, and it's going to guarantee that the air is not allowed back in during the cycle. So to run a vacuum leak test, we're going to go over here to the PLC. Again, for the two performance tests, we're going to press test. And the two options, the Bowie-Dick or the vacuum leak. So we're going to press vacuum leak test. And it brings up the ready screen. Always check your water levels in the back. Check your chamber vent valves. And definitely, you'll know if those are loose, because you would not pass this vacuum leak test. So make sure everything's tight. And then finally, close and tighten the door. You're going to want to make sure the door is well tightened, just to make sure that O-ring seals and doesn't let any air in. So after all those things are taken care of, we're going to go ahead and start the cycle. And again, this, just like always, this goes through the normal pre-vac conditioning phases, and we'll pick it back up when we get to a settling phase, and we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a second. So we're going to press start. Alright, so here we are during the vacuum leak test. As you can see, we are pulling the vacuum on the last vacuum pulse of the pre-vac. So we've completed the pressure pulses, all the other vacuum pulses. We're on this last one. We're actually going to pull deeper than 18 inches of mercury this time. The water recovery system is going to pull the vacuum to 20. So you can see it pulling a little farther there. 20, and then here in a second the water recovery system is going to shut off, and we're going to go into a 5-minute stabilization. So this 5-minute countdown timer that just started, everything's stabilizing. So water recovery system's off, it's no longer pulling a deeper vacuum. We have 20 inches of mercury vacuum on the chamber. So at the end of this 5 minutes, the PLC is going to record whatever vacuum reading it has. So say it's 19, it would record 19. If it had 20, it would record 20. And then what it's going to do is going to know the vacuum at the start of the test, and it's going to know the vacuum at the end of the test. And if it loses any vacuum, it's going to compare those values. And if it loses any vacuum, it's going to give you an alarm that it failed the test. If the vacuum stayed the same or got deeper, if things cool off and it gets deeper, then it'll give you a green light that the vacuum leak test passed. So again, we're going to stabilize here for 4 more minutes, and then we're going to go into a 15-minute test period that it has to hold the vacuum. Okay, so we are approaching the end of that 5-minute stabilization of the vacuum leak test. You can see that it's the vacuum test. We're still in the testing portion of the cycle, and the countdown timer is approaching the end, and once it reaches the end, we're going to get a 15-minute countdown timer that flashes up. So the 15-minute countdown timer just flashed up, and the PLC just recorded whatever value was on the whatever the value the pressure sensor was reading at the time, which was 20 inches of mercury. So it just recorded that, and at the end of this 15 minutes, whether it gets deeper or stays the same, you'll pass the cycle. Again, you can press abort at any time. If you did something wrong, you forgot to close the vent valve in the back and you notice you're losing vacuum, press abort and rerun it. So we'll pick back up here in a little bit at the end of this 15 minutes, and we'll take a look at the log screen and take a look at the results. All right, so here we are towards the end of the vacuum leak test. You notice we still have the timer keeping track of the time. Our countdown timer of 15 minutes is nearing the end. You'll notice that the vacuum has increased. Things are cooling down, and so the vacuum has increased. Again, if it increases or stays the same, we're good. We're going to pass the vacuum leak test. So here we are at the end, and as we approach the end, the unit is going to compare that last value it sees with the first value. Now it's going to vent the vacuum and draw in outside air through the HEPA filter. So it's going to equalize the pressure so we can open up the chamber. So that's going to vent slowly, draw some air in. And if we were completed successfully, we'll get a 1 beep and a green light indicating that there were no vacuum leaks. All right, here in a second we'll look at the log screen, which will tell us the overall cycle time and if we pass the cycle. I'd like to refer you to the manual. If you didn't pass the vacuum leak test or something happened, there is a troubleshooting guide in the manual which can march you through some things you can check to hopefully pass a vacuum leak later on. So you can see we got the green light. Here on the log, we know we ran a vacuum test cycle. System was normal, so that last vacuum value was greater or equal to the first one it found during that 15-minute test period. So no vacuum leak test detected, no vacuum leaks detected, so it passed. We don't record any of the min and max temperatures or pressures. Those are all going to be 0 because we weren't controlling off temperature and there was no exposure. Also, you can see the exposure time is 0. So we got the green light. We can open up the chamber, pull up the throw arm, and that's the true end of the cycle. You can see my light just turned yellow, and so the jacket is going to start heating back up, back to its 28.5 psi idle. So that's going to heat back up. That'll stay yellow and will turn off, and when that turns off, you're ready to run your cycle. So again, this is the vacuum test cycle. You're going to run this only on intrusive maintenance or the first setup in the new location. And that's the second of your performance tests. So you can see here in the log, Also, the arrows at the bottom, if you wanted to look at your other performance tests you ran or even another cycle, you can arrow over and check the other cycles in the log. So you can see the Bowie dip test cycle that we ran right before this. It stores all the values, the min and max temperatures, time that was started for your records. And you can arrow back over to the vacuum test cycle. So also, if I press the main menu and get back to the main menu, I can look at that test I just ran by pressing log, and it'll take me right back there. So I can go back to that vacuum test cycle. There's my overall cycle time, and I can arrow through and look at other cycles I've run throughout the day. So that's the vacuum test cycle. Thank you very much.